Happy Memorial Day! Yeah, those voice lessons are really working out, huh?
Yeah.
You can tell the timbre of my voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Happy Memorial Day. How are you spending it?
I am spending it chilling like a villain. I laid in bed, took a shower, ate some cereal.
Okay.
Watched some Bob's Burgers.
Then what?
Snuggled my cat.
Uh-huh.
And here we are.
Here we are. Nice. It is such an interesting thing, Memorial Day this year, as in the past few years.
Yeah, why?
It's a beautiful thing to honor our fallen service members and to think that if they were around today to see the country that we now live in is sad and humiliating.
Yeah.
Not by any fault of our own.
No.
But not to get too political. This is a politics podcast, but
yeah,
starting off on a really grim note.
Yeah. That's kind of why I'm staying silent. I don't know if I want to bite into that.
Yeah, I brought a very grim story today that I'm excited to get into.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
But first,
there's
so many things to talk about. We haven't talked in so long, Dylan.
Yes, you've been on your trip.
Yes, I've been away for multiple weeks. You've been here holding down the fort.
Uh-huh.
What's new?
What is new with me? Well, I made a very terrible purchase.
Oh.
Well, I don't know if it's terrible yet because it hasn't come.
Okay.
But I bought Timberland's Pabst Blue Ribbon partnership boots. They are Timberland boots that are blue in the color of Pabst Blue Ribbon. And they have...
Is that a beer?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought.
And
they partnered together?
Come again?
They partnered together?
They did.
The boot brand and the beer brand?
The boot brand and the beer brand. And they have the logo of Pabst Blue Ribbon on the front of them, as well as emblazoned on the side.
You know what? I think I agree with you. This is probably your worst purchase yet.
I think they look very beautiful.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong.
I think they're a good color.
Maybe I'm wrong.
But I also feel a little bit of maybe imposter syndrome.
Oh.
Because
no.
I don't drink Pabst Blue Ribbon at all.
That would do it.
I just like the boots. I like the aesthetic.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Then maybe they are good. Maybe I'm picturing something that's a lot more gaudy than it actually is.
No, it's scarcely garish at all.
Okay. Then it's probably gonna look really stylish.
Yeah, I think it looks quite stylish.
I encourage this.
We will see when it shows up. And I bought another hat.
Of course.
I only have one
hat
head, but I have like 5 hats.
Well, now you do. You didn't used to, like 5 months ago. Now you have all these hats.
Yeah, I guess I'm a hat guy.
Yeah, you're trying to be a hat guy. Famously.
Whenever I hear the word hat guy, the phrase hat guy, I think of somebody who wears fedoras, bowler hats.
Usually, yeah.
Someone who carried around a briefcase in high school.
Yeah.
I don't want to associate with that because I feel like there is a pretty significant delineation to be made between fedora people.
I would agree.
And baseball cap people.
I would 100% agree. Yeah, fedora people say, ma'am. And baseball cap people don't.
Fedora people say, m'lady.
M'lady.
Yeah, they typically are Redditors.
Yeah.
Incels. People who maybe have not had the same...
socialization,
who haven't been given maybe the same social niceties as other more well-adjusted people.
Yeah.
And because of that, they turn into a kind of caricature of poor social skills.
Yes, I would agree.
And I think that's great. So, that's been my life recently. And
buying hats and buying boots.
Buying hats, buying boots, working on some art.
Love it.
Drawing a cowboy.
And,
I don't want to talk about myself too much.
Why not?
Okay, if you insist.
Yeah.
I have been changing my art style from like a more outline art style to a more like shape language, painterly art style.
I've noticed.
And I feel like with younger artists, young to intermediate artists, the impulse is to add outlines around everything.
Uh-huh.
Which can add a lot of stylization to a piece of art. It can make it pop. It can really add emphasis to a specific part of a drawing.
Okay.
Or a painting. But I feel like there's a lot more potential to be had with outlines because you don't see them in real life.
I was going
You
to
only
say,
see
real life,
the,
we don't have outlines.
Yeah, you just see the difference between light and dark. But what is new with you?
Oh my goodness.
So much.
So much. I went to Kenya, which was amazing,
Can
incredible.
you believe
it was really, really... I was very ill coming back.
Oh?
I was very, very ill.
With?
Vertigo. I've never had vertigo before. At least not like this. Do you know what vertigo is?
Yes.
Okay. I was just very...
Do you know what mindfulness is?
I didn't know. You gave me a funny look. You gave me a look like, huh?
Yeah, because I never heard you talk about vertigo before.
I've never had it before. And I was very, very ill. Yeah, I was unwell. Kenya was amazing. I'm very grateful that I've gone. I would absolutely go again. Hearing how treacherous of a trip that it is and then experiencing it are two different things. Because you hear it and you're like, I can deal with that. I can deal. And then you're on there, and literally at one point I was like, why did I do this to myself? Like, I was like, this is wild. Why? I'm here. This is crazy. And then I was very ill coming back. I also wouldn't, if I did it again, I wouldn't plan to do a trip back to back.
Yeah.
That was just a huge mistake. But I did it, and I'm here to tell the tale.
You did.
So...
And I think, honestly, these days, the most treacherous thing about going abroad is really the air travel.
Actually, I don't mind the air travel. Everyone complains about it, and I don't mind
all the planes
it.
just exploding out of the sky?
Well, thank you for saying that, Dylan. I really appreciate that.
And on the ground? Well, you're back.
I actually had a dream last night that a plane crashed.
Oh.
So thank you for bringing that trauma back up.
Hoping that's not some kind of paranormal
premonition.
Omen. Yeah.
Like Final Destination shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But I actually don't mind the air. What I'm most afraid of, truly, is getting sick on an airplane. Everyone was hacking and coughing. You're in such close proximity.
Yeah.
Nothing's wiped down. And I famously always get sick. So
yes.
Especially going on these 2 trips, I'm like, if I get sick, that'll be it. And I already was ill with a non-sick sickness.
Right. As we've discussed in the past, you have the, what would you call it? Like the
lungs of a goldfish.
The lungs of a goldfish. The just general like medical disposition of like a tiny Elizabethan child.
Yes.
Who's on their deathbed.
Truly.
And you've been cursed with bronchitis, and you've been neglecting your Madame Zeroni.
Yes. All of those things. Yes. So that's that. But no, Kenya was really amazing. Before I complain about the illness anymore, I do want to say Kenya was incredible. Not only did we get to go see the two communities who, one had a sand dam already built for them, or built for them. They had finished building it. They built it themselves by hand.
Right.
And we saw a community where they were in the process of building their sand dam, both very powerful, both shared a lot of really incredible stories, just talking about life before and after water, dreams, hopes for the future. It was really beautiful.
Yeah.
And then we got to go on a safari.
Okay.
I saw everything but a zebra.
You saw a tiger.
I saw a tiger.
Are you serious?
No, I'm not serious.
Gotcha.
Of course I'm not serious. But I saw a lioness. I saw 2 lionesses laying in the high grass.
And if you squint, it kind of looks like a tiger.
If you squint. If you squint a little bit. There were giraffes everywhere.
Everywhere. Too many.
No, never. No, they were beautiful. I went to a baby elephant orphanage.
Yeah, you mentioned that when you came back. You talked a little bit about that at the office. How small are baby elephants typically?
Not that small.
No, about the size of like
taller than an average human.
What?
Yeah.
An average human being like 5'10".
Yeah.
5'8".
Yeah.
They're taller than 5'8", even as babies?
Yeah.
Even as baby?
Yeah. They're about the size of a grown-ass horse.
Sheesh.
Yeah, they're tall. They are big creatures, and they are weird looking.
Yeah.
They are weird looking.
Yeah.
Because you see a picture of an elephant, and you're like, what a beautiful creature. And then you see one in person, you're like, what the fuck is this?
I keep a picture of an elephant in my wallet.
Yeah?
Just to remind myself of the beauty of nature.
Yeah. And then you see one in person, you're like, the beauty of nature.
Yeah, it looks smaller in the photo.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was really, really cool.
Wonderful. Well, I'm so glad that you're back. And we're completely neglecting the other half of your travel story.
Yes, I then after being very sick with vertigo, I was dry heaving a lot. The world kept spinning. It was a nightmare. I was in a lot of discomfort and pain. And then I went to Budapest, Vienna, and Prague. And it was also very lovely. So yeah, Budapest. Budapest was really lovely. Really good food. Very down to earth, very young, very hip. They actually have these things called ruins bars. And it's basically like places within the city that were either bombed during the wars, plural, were either occupied, like ghetto, like the Jewish ghetto being occupied in that side of Europe, or just like general like decrepit ruins. But they're turned into bars now, and they were really freaking cool.
General Decrepit Ruins reporting for duty. So it felt appropriate given Memorial Day.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. And you brought back chocolate?
I did.
It was excellent.
I'm glad you liked it. And I brought back coffee from Africa.
That was very good as well. It had a good earthy sort of taste to it.
I'm glad.
Very smooth.
Couldn't tell you. I don't drink coffee, but I'm glad that you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah, Vienna was beautiful. Vienna is very like posh and elegant, very, very like very well put together. They were very wealthy historically, like the Habsburgs and all that.
Yeah.
And it's very much looks like it to this day. And then Prague's like a really nice mixture of the two.
Vienna, an increasingly popular Billy Joel song.
Yeah, increasingly popular.
Yeah, it seemed like a reemergence in popularity in the past 5-10 years.
Vienna
for some
has
reason.
always been in my top Billy Joel collective. So as a resurgence.
Top three go?
Top three go?
Top three go? And
she's always a woman.
Okay.
Vienna. If I say Uptown Girl, that's cliche. But I do love Lil Doo-Wop. Oh no! Sorry, I lied. Good Night My Angel. Forgot about that.
That is
Good Night My Angel is probably number 1. Vienna, probably number 2. I do love Always a Woman.
Excellent. Good choices.
Yeah.
For me, it's probably New York State of Mind.
It's a good one.
Baby Grant, the duet that he did with Ray Charles. And A Leave a Tender Moment Alone. Kind of a deep cut.
I don't think I know that one.
Yeah, very good stuff.
Indeed. Deep cut indeed.
Yeah, well, folks, welcome to My Existential Crisis.
The podcast where we talk about all the things that make us question our entire sense of self. My name is Madison Epley.
And my name is Dylan Berger.
So, Dylan.
Yes.
What do you have for us today? You said you had a rather depressing story, which is why you started out this episode depressing.
Well, it's only going to get more grim.
Oh, cool. Love that.
Now let's play something out. You're old, at the end of your life, in your early 30s, and you're on your deathbed saying goodbye to your children, their children, your family. Everyone's gathered in reverence. As you breathe your final breath, you experience what so many other people have reported in their near-death experiences. You rise from your body. You fly toward the light, excited for the next step on your spiritual adventure. But instead, that warm, loving light is lure, where advanced alien entities harvest your spiritual energy, disconnect you from your accumulated wisdom, and shunt you back into the endless cycle of reincarnation.
What the fuck?
Nothing more than a source of power. They've been doing this for millennia. They'll do it for millennia more. And there's little that we can do about it. Reduced to human cattle.
What the hell?
Welcome to the soul trap theory. One of the most controversial theories in spiritual circles, an idea often met with hostility and extreme skepticism. And I personally love that.
Okay.
I have nothing but love for the spiritual community. I consider myself a very spiritual person. But they kind of have a tendency to take the most out there theories as fact. Some guy named Tea Leaf claims it to be true after a week-long ayahuasca marathon. It's kind of just the way that things go in the spiritual community. That's one of the reasons I like the soul trap theory. because it makes a lot of spiritual people rear back and furrow their brow. This is not popular stuff.
Okay.
That's why I like to talk about it today, partially because we can learn a lot about ourselves from the things we don't like, and partially because it's really silly.
Okay.
So the soul trap theory has a few other names that help to round out the concept. It's also called the cosmic prison, the reincarnation trap, and the false light matrix.
Okay, I've got to say, the soul trap theory sounds like a music genre.
Like instead of like soul fusion and jazz, it's soul trap.
Soul trap.
Soul trap, like, oh, okay, yeah.
And then you said cosmic prison.
Yeah.
That's like a cosmic brownie. That's what I call myself whenever I'm laying on the couch in a deep depression eating cosmic brownies.
I like the free word association that we're doing.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Nice. And what does the false light matrix make you think of?
That sounds like a Taylor Swift song.
Nice. Okay. So really, really dire stuff.
Yes.
Then.
Yeah.
Now, this theory suggests that the experiences we usually associate with near-death experiences, or NDEs, are not the product of a benevolent, all-loving universe, but actually part of a malevolent system designed with the sole intention of controlling our souls and sucking out all our goodness.
See, that would kind of make... Ew.
We're being sucked and we don't even know it.
Ew.
Disgusting.
Ew. What a phrase. I don't ever want to hear that phrase again.
So what were you going to say?
I don't even know.
All right. Well, there are a few parts of the soul trap theory that are important to understand. And one of them is the most important components. It's the false light deception.
Okay.
It's more or less what it sounds like. That the light reported in the large majority of NDEs is not actually a divine phenomenon meant to guide souls toward the afterlife, but something artificially generated with the purpose of luring us in, similar to how a deep-sea anglerfish lures in its prey.
Damn.
As the souls approach and enter the light, their energy is harvested and consumed. In our culture and in cultures across the world, light is symbolic of truth and purity. So what better way to pull a confused soul toward the machine than by using light? It's a simple trick, but it's effective. I mean, wouldn't you go toward the light as well?
Yeah, of course I would. Light or darkness, I go through the light.
Yeah. Kind of makes you wonder, and we'll play around with this idea a little bit, but ghosts, souls that remain on Earth, maybe they were just aware of this mechanism and chose to remain in spirit form rather than being reincarnated by going into the light.
That's a good theory.
Yeah, it provides a different explanation than what we typically discuss.
Or maybe they so instead of maybe them being aware, maybe they are some of the few people who did choose the darkness. Like if you've got like if you have an option of going towards the light, maybe they just didn't. Maybe that was them saying, I don't. Maybe that even if they didn't know, maybe they could just be like, I don't want to die yet. Yeah. And they could like maybe it's like their body, their soul trying to like fight back, but there's no body to go to anymore.
There could be many reasons for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, to keep things working properly in the cosmic prison / brownie, something else has to take place. Upon entering the light and being harvested, your memory has to be wiped. Things can't continue to operate if you have an understanding of what has been done to you. So the entity in charge of the system disconnects you from your past experiences. Everything you learned, the mistakes you made, who you were, and how you grew, all of that is forgotten, not to give you a fresh start, but to prevent you from making progress. This ultimately helps to maintain the cycle of reincarnation, keeping you trapped. You're unable to build on your past lives and develop spiritually as well as you might have if you still held on to the memories of who you were in past incarnations. And so your eternal soul creates infinite energy indefinitely for an evil god.
Wow.
Tough break, huh?
Yeah. That's why. That is some dark shit.
Yeah. Now, before we get too much deeper into this, let's talk about that evil god.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, it's not necessarily God with a capital G per se, but it's certainly powerful. It has many of the qualities we've come to associate with capital G God. It's all-encompassing. It has dominion over our souls, but the entity or entities detailed in this theory are actually called archons. Have you heard this term before?
I have not heard this term. Archons?
Yes.
Or archons?
Archons.
How do you spell it?
Archons.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, these wardens of the cosmic prison oversee the soul trap, feed on those souls, and ensure that we're properly recycled through reincarnation.
Fuck.
As for a physical description, you'll get various interpretations. Some people consider archons as non-physical parasitic beings that don't have a tangible face or body. In Gnosticism, which is a heretical movement of the 2nd century Christian church, partly pre-Christian, the archons are described as being hermaphroditic with the faces of beasts. As far as the late 1st and 2nd century AD, archons have been a concept.
Wait, so that's interesting. So you said that they were associated with like Christianity?
A heretical sect of Christianity called the Gnostics.
Okay.
Was sort of split off from Christianity.
Okay.
Their teachings were very much, to my knowledge, suppressed.
Okay.
But they dealt more, if I'm remembering correctly, with the more mystical elements of Christianity, which you don't see too often these days.
Like kind of like a mixture of like paganism and Christianity in that sense?
Kinda, yeah. Now, Gnostics saw the archons as rulers, builders of the physical universe, and these archons prevented souls from leaving the material realm. There was even a sect of Gnostics called the Archontics, who saw the archons as jailers.
Oh.
Epiphanius of Salamis is the earliest Christian writer who recorded information about the sect. Speaking of the Archontics, Epiphanius wrote, "They say that the soul is the food of the archons and powers without which they cannot live."
What does that mean?
Essentially saying that the archons are feeding on the soul and cannot live without it.
I see.
Mm-hmm. Theodore, a theologian. I knew I was going to fuck that up. Theodore, a theologian. I say that word all the time. Why can I get it right?
How do you not know this?
Theodore, a theologian. Leave this in.
I was saying, now I'm going to probably keep it in.
Theologian. Theodore. Theodore. What?
I was going to say, it doesn't help that the name is also Theo. It's like Theo the theologian.
Theodore, theologian, from the 5th century,
You get it.
reported that it was a practice of some to pour oil and water on the heads of the deceased, rendering them invisible to the archons and withdrawing them from their control. It's also a good way to find out if they're really dead. All of this to say, the soul trap theory is by no means new. It's grounded in very old beliefs. It's dressed up a little differently today, but the concept remains the same, and that concept dates back over 1,000 years.
That's really interesting.
Another old concept you're familiar with is karma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I need to provide an explanation here. Everyone knows what karma is. Karma is embedded in our culture. It also plays an interesting part in the soul trap theory. And in that theory, karma is understood as a form of energetic debt and repayment. You can think of it as student debt, and the archons are Sally Mae.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, across your many lives, you're constantly working to balance your karmic accounts.
Damn, even in this lifetime, we can't get away from that shit.
Yeah, and much like an actual student loan, there's an unholy power that's actively fighting to keep you under its control.
Yeah. Shit.
Wringing out as much of your energy as possible.
Damn.
In certain interpretations of the soul trap theory, the archons are manipulating the laws of karma to create a never-ending debt that prevents true liberation. In any sense of karmic progress is merely an illusion.
Damn.
Grim stuff.
Grim stuff indeed.
Now let's dig into this a little more. What are the archons actually feeding on?
Yeah.
Now I mentioned spiritual energy, but that's vague.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course.
What? So maybe I don't understand. What exactly are archons?
I mean, different belief systems have different ideas of them.
Can we think of them as like a demon kind of feature?
I mean, vaguely, they're large cosmic entities that maintain the prison of reincarnation so they can feed on us and wring out more energy. They don't necessarily have a physical form unless you believe the Gnostics.
That's so hard for me to wrap my brain around.
Yeah, they're like
Like the Milky Way, but a being.
Exactly.
Is that actually?
Yes.
A black hole. What about black hole?
I mean, maybe in like metaphorically.
Okay.
In that they pull in energy.
I'm just trying to think of something from my brain. Like, because right now I hear the word and like my brain's having a hard time like visualizing or like figuring out what that is, even though I hear the explanation of it.
Sure. So, like the rain table diagram of like water going from freshwater sources into the atmosphere.
Yes. Like the water cycle.
Evaporation, precipitation. Yeah. So I guess to like put things visually, a soul enters a human body, lives its life. During the course of its life, creates energy, which as the soul is detached from the body upon death, it rises into the atmosphere, at which point the archons at the very top feed on the energy it's created and then shunt it back into a human body to start the process again.
That's helpful.
Cool.
Sorry.
No, not at all. Now, I mentioned spiritual energy. It's kind of vague. Robert Monroe has a better term.
Okay.
Now, you might remember Monroe from our episode on meditation and the Monroe Institute. He was an early pioneer in the investigation of human consciousness, who developed techniques for enhancing meditation through binaural beats.
Yes. Binaural beats. That was another musical term.
And he also coined the term louche, which refers to a kind of spiritual energy created by human emotion like suffering, fear, conflict, love, and ecstasy.
Damn.
Paraphrasing from Monroe's book Far Journeys, the gardeners created Earth as a louche farm.
Louche.
Conflict and emotion are fertilizers. Monroe spoke of non-physical entities called the collectors or the keepers, who consume louche as sustenance, arranging systems to sustain that energy source. Now, Monroe never explicitly supported something as malevolent and hopeless as a soul trap theory, but he laid the groundwork for those ideas in the modern day.
So in the terms of an archon, what is louche? That's just like the emotion, like the energy that it feeds off of?
Yeah, it's the... I saw one interpretation as the contradictions of emotion within our material plane as only available on Earth are so different from those in a more pure energetic plane. And because those contradictions exist, they create a kind of fractal nutrient for these higher beings, which is otherwise inaccessible to them.
Okay.
Yeah. Does that...
It helps.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Wait, actually, no. Re-explain it. Wait, actually, yeah.
So I saw the explanations of love within betrayal, ecstasy within limitation.
Okay.
So on, these contradictions create a very unique energy pattern, which is inaccessible in a pure, more static plane. And these entities that exist on that plane can only access these fractal nutrients by sourcing them from human beings.
Okay. That helps.
Who rely on the human experience to...
The complex human experience.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Namely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. Now, Monroe's personal journey with out-of-body experiences deserves some consideration. He wasn't just speculating about this kind of thing. He was actively leaving his body and traveling, taking notes, making discoveries. Mm-hmm. He's a pioneer of OBE study. And I feel like that deserves some, recognition.
Yeah.
So let's get back into the soul trap theory, the focus of this episode. How do we hold on to our precious luge? How? How do we escape the trap? Outside of someone pouring oil and water on our corpse, how do we fight back against the archons and free ourselves from the grasp of our corrupt overseers? And that's the thing. It's extremely difficult. The cards are very much stacked against us. The odds are not in our favor, and we're playing against the house. In this metaphor, we've been dealt a pair of twos. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. We're 4 beers deep, and our friend is 20 minutes into explaining the overcomplicated rules of a poker spinoff they insist is a lot of fun. You've probably been there. So how do we get out? Well, you got to play the hand you're dealt. Without memory of our past lives, with whatever circumstances we're born into, we have to strive for the spiritual development necessary to transcend this cosmic prison.
How do you do that if it sucks you into it?
Well, it includes working on our awareness, cultivating the ability to see through all of the deception constructed by the archons to keep us here.
I'm fucked. I am fucked.
Why do you say that?
I am like the most gullible person there is. You'll say shit to me and I'll be like, really?
That's true, yeah.
That's true.
Uh-huh.
So you'd be great at it, I feel like.
I'd be a great archon.
Yeah, you would be a great archon. Sucking everybody up, spitting them out.
Like little Kirby.
Little Kirby.
And then I turn into the little whatever I suck in. Anyway. Now, we need to perceive the false light for what it really is. And there are various strategies we can employ to improve our chances. Madison, if you suddenly received irrefutable proof that the soul trap theory was true, what methods would you use to escape this existential loop?
Well, if I had a choice, I guess I wouldn't go into the light if I knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
But then what would I do instead? Is there another option?
I guess going back to our earlier conversation, maybe remaining on Earth.
I would do that.
Is a ghost capable of spiritual enlightenment?
I don't think so.
You don't?
I don't.
Why is that?
I don't, because I think that they're trapped in the spirit that I don't think that they can evolve.
Really?
I don't think so. Because you hear so many stories of like repetition in ghostly activity and like not just repetition, but also like it doesn't, from the stories that I've heard, it doesn't seem like there's much evolution or change there. It's not like a ghost will suddenly become unracist, I guess. like I don't think I can see that. Or like a child, it's not like a child grows up. It's not like a child ghost doesn't need its teddy bear anymore.
So what you're saying is that a physical body is fundamental to spiritual development?
I think it might. I don't know, Dylan. Maybe. I don't think I would have necessarily thought of it in that way, but now I'm thinking that, yes, maybe it needs something. I guess with ghosts, I imagine them as being stuck. So I think that's what that thought is coming from. Like, I imagine ghosts being stuck or on repeat or, like, trapped. Whereas maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's them being free.
Yeah, I'm not sure, because typically in those loops we don't see much freedom of choice.
No, we don't.
It's just a repetition of existing patterns.
Exactly. So I would think that it probably does need a body to help continue to grow, and it also probably needs to experience. It's probably okay. Here's probably what it is. It probably doesn't necessarily need the body to grow, but it probably needs the body to be able to experience more life where it doesn't have that now. Yeah,
our bodies are the way that we track physical and mental and spiritual change in our lives. I think it's often reflected on our face and the things that we do and what we wear and who we are.
Yeah.
And removing the physical aspect from the soul definitely seems like it would hinder it.
It also feels lonely and like limiting. Like you don't get the same experiences without a body that you would with it. Like you don't get, how do you interact with people unless they know that you're there, and like you can't see them. They can't see you rather. Like, I don't know. It just feels like a lonely, like some of that human connection that helps you to grow and evolve as a person is kind of missing as well.
Yeah, I see that for sure. And, in addition to that, many spiritual practices are tied to the body.
Yeah.
Like breath work, for example.
Yeah. Meditation.
Meditation, breath work. I'm sure there are others.
Stretching.
Exercise, yeah. All these things you can't do if you're just a spirit. Which is an interesting thought to play out if we're explaining why we take physical form in the first place.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because the only way to develop ourselves spiritually is through physical form.
Yeah. It's interesting.
Yeah. Now, Believers in the theory practice pretty broad range of techniques. The soul trap theory, that is. But they're what you'd expect. They encourage things like meditation, mindfulness, if you've heard of it, connecting with your inner guide, working toward better discernment, and seeking knowledge from alternative sources. Lastly, it's recommended that you raise your frequency. That's something you hear a lot these days, or at least that's something that I hear a lot these days.
I don't. I'm not on that side of TikTok.
No?
What does that mean?
It means sort of raising your frequency through positivity, whether it's in the form of thoughts or actions, basically.
What is that? Raising your activity? Like, what does that mean?
So,
like your awareness,
from what I've seen, like frequency is applied to like a broad range of emotion. Lower frequency emotions are fear, contempt, disgust.
Bad emotions.
Higher frequency emotions are love, kindness,
compassion.
Compassion. And to raise your frequency is to adjust who you are, what you think, and how you act to access those higher frequency emotions more often.
Okay.
Thus raising your frequency.
But then, wouldn't raising your frequency to those more complex, yummy emotions make the archons want to them up a little bit more?
Now, I read this like really briefly when I was researching, but it's my understanding that the lower frequency emotions are more volatile and more scrumptious for the archons.
So they do want the lower frequency emotions.
Yes.
So it's the lower frequency emotions that are that's the McDonald's.
Yeah, that's the McD's.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. The McFlurry is your despair. And
that sounds about right.
And like the cup of free water you get is like friendship.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
a Brussels sprout is compassion.
If you roast a Brussels sprout,
they're good.
Damn good.
Listen, I like a good. If it's done right, I like a Brussels sprout.
Yeah, absolutely. If it's done wrong, I want nothing to do with it.
Then it's probably closer to. Yep.
My thoughts exactly. All right. Now, just closing things a little bit. Wouldn't it be some cruel irony and deserved justice to learn that we're treated as we treat animals on our own planet?
Oh.
As nothing more than a source of energy endlessly recycled? Could we really argue against that being fair? Or maybe we've built our system of animal exploitation as a sort of subconscious parallel to the way that we ourselves are exploited in the afterlife. Like there's a spiritual trauma that's impossible to fully erase and we cycle onto others.
That's so fucked.
You can see that parallel played out in all aspects of our lives. Our industrial farming, prison system, labor system, our class system and how the rich feed off the poor.
Yeah.
There's a hierarchy that reflects the hierarchy of archons and human souls. You know that famous saying, as above, so below?
Yes.
And if we want to take that to its fullest extent, then why would the afterlife be a beautiful place of infinite love and peace? The world certainly isn't.
That's so sad.
Maybe the exploitation we see in our life goes all the way up.
Oh.
And we're just reenacting that injustice over and over without knowing quite why.
That is heartbreaking.
The most we can do in any case is work towards spiritual development and embrace our true, authentic selves, moving away from lower vibrations. If the theory is true, we'll have saved ourselves a trial of additional lifetimes and the violation of our very souls. If the theory is false, we'll have improved our lives and the lives of the people around us. The only thing we stand to lose is sleep over the idea that we're the helpless cattle of cosmic vampires. Now that we've really laid everything out, what do you think about the soul trap theory?
I think it's a little too pessimistic for my taste. I don't know. I can certainly understand that, and I think it's an interesting take on the idea of reincarnation. But, yeah, I think with all the bad that there is in the world, I think that there's probably an equal amount of good that we don't necessarily see. And I don't know. It's so hard for me because it's really hard for me because if it is true, that just sucks. It just sucks.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard for me to, like, what's the point in, like, continuing on if that's the case, you know? As, like, as the world is existing as a whole.
To eventually free yourselves from the prison of reincarnation.
But then how do we do that?
By spiritually developing ourselves.
Yeah, I guess. And then what happens? Then
we're free to leave the cosmic prison behind and explore higher dimensions of being.
Then after that, is it like a heaven where it has been paradise? Like we have to get through this, like, purgatory almost to get through to that heaven?
Could be. One of my favorite contemporary philosophers, Terence McKenna, who died early 2000s, very sad. He talked about what he believed would happen after death. And I think that it's kind of a explanation to, or a response to the idea of what happens when you're free. It's just, we just are no longer within a vessel, and we have the full freedom to do and be whatever we want to be, without the limitations of a human body. And I think that's a wonderfully exciting thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I don't personally believe the soul trap theory myself, really.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a weird kind of existential defeatism that looks at the universe as a way worse place than it actually is.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, and it also speaks to something deeper. You can see the spread of modern cynicism sort of seeping into the spiritual community.
Yes.
With the reemergence of this theory. And I think it's pretty gross. Still, the broader idea of archons might be misinterpreting the real truth. That maybe, when we die, we do feed into something greater. Our experiences enrich a higher power, and we reincarnate to continue raising and refining a larger oversoul.
Oversoul?
Oversoul.
What does that mean?
It's like a larger soul that souls come from.
Okay.
We contribute,
like the soul source.
The soul source. Right. And we contribute willingly, not as prisoners, but participants. Maybe we've been the archons all along.
Damn, that's deep. See, that I could get behind.
Sources are Spiritual Seeker on Substack, who wrote a really in-depth and insightful piece about the soul trap theory that I recommend you folks check out. Of course, Wikipedia for information on archons, the archontics, and the Gnostic beliefs surrounding the subject, and of my own knowledge.
Of your own knowledge?
No, that's just a source.
Oh. I thought, I was like, wow, we're citing Dylan's knowledge now. Yeah. How fascinating. No, that was really good. That was really interesting, Dylan.
Thank you.
How did you hear of that, and what made you choose that?
I heard this theory a while back, and I just wanted to explore it a little more, and I didn't know how deep it went and how far back it went.
Yeah.
To, like, late 1st and 2nd century AD. Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen Heretic?
Yes.
I just watched it.
Excellent movie.
It is so good. I just watched it, and it kind of reminded me when you were talking about that, like, how it, like, history has these stories that it kind of repeats and reinvents throughout time.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, how he's describing, like, all these different religions and how they all have, like, this God or Savior who is born on the 25th of December, and like all the parallels, like 12 disciples and all things like that. Like, it's really interesting to see how these types of history, stories, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, lore, just like carries over time and evolves. It's like what, like you said about how it's kind of like seeping in the cynicism from today and kind of evolving it in that regard. That feels very now.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I'm sure it felt very then back 8,000 years ago when the world was in the dark ages. And
8,000 years ago?
Did you say 8,000 years ago?
Over 1,000.
I thought you said
8,000 years ago, we didn't have a civilization.
I thought you said 8,000 years ago.
Did we? No.
Yeah.
Late 1st and 2nd century AD.
Oh, I thought you said, I swear you said 8,000.
So it's like 1,800 years ago.
I've definitely missed. I have headphones on, so I probably heard 8,000 as 8,000. That's probably what that was. Oops.
It's interesting to see those stories repeated over and over. And you have to wonder, are they just repetitions of the first story that was made out of thin air?
Yeah.
Or is there some specific impression made upon us spiritually by an unknown source that speaks to a greater truth that we're recycling to try to rationalize and reconcile some truth that is inaccessible to us?
It is fascinating how, like, all these, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's not that long of a time. Like, in terms of, like, people being around.
Not at all.
But it is still really fascinating to me how, still, after all this time, it's kind of like what humans always go back to, is like looking for that greater sense of identity and that greater sense of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And it all then kind of recycles with these, like, these fables and stories and lore into new things.
And it will continue to for a long time.
Yeah.
Well.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dylan. That was interesting. I love that. Well, if you are interested in learning more about us, you can follow us at MeCrisisPod on Instagram and Facebook. You can send us an email at myexistentialcrisis@gmail.com. Dylan, where can they find you?
Marblefolk.
And you can find me at Madison Epley.
All right, folks.
Feel free to like and subscribe. Hit that follow button. Send us a review if you're interested.
Rate us 5 stars.
Yeah. Be our next... David, my fiance was upset that we always refer to Susan.
Yeah.
I was going to say be our next Susan, but maybe I should say be our next David.
Yeah.
So be our next #1 fan.
Yeah. Be our next #1 fan and write in. Let us know how we're doing.
Yeah.
Suggest stories. Ask questions. We'd be happy to answer them.
Yeah. We probably don't know the answers, but we can speculate.
We'll do our best.
All right, guys. Thank you.
And happy Memorial Day.